This artist talk was originally presented at the annual conference of the Bibliographic Society of Canada, held at York University in May 2023. I was grateful for the opportunity to be part of this inclusive gathering of presenters and learn so much about how the book is being reimagined and reborn. The land that I am fortunate to live and work on is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat people, and is adjacent to the Kanien'kehá:ka community of Tyendinaga. The piece that I am presenting is the result of being a visitor to the edge of Lake Ontario, and I would also like to acknowledge the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the current treaty holders of the Dish with One Spoon Belt Covenant, and the ongoing importance of this agreement to share the territory and protect the land around the Great Lakes region. In early June 2020, I began to regularly photograph at the edge of Lake Ontario, always from the same vantage point. I would walk along a trail in the village of Wellington and then conclude at this location to make a photographic record. This image, from June 5th, 2020, marks the undertaking of this process. Over the following months and years, I continued, slowly amassing visual records that reflect the ever-changing conjunction of sky, water, and land. This process did not have a specific goal, nor did I conceive of it initially as part of my art practice. Rather, it was my grounding practice during the pandemic lockdown. All these images were made using my readily available iPhone. In the summer of 2022, my sense of the project shifted from that of personal record keeping to the research gathering for my next work. To date, there are images from 128 visits to the lake, and 3 separate pieces are underway. In Sleepwalk, I explore the phenomena of shifting states, natural, physical, social, and psychological. Numerous texts have provided insights and challenges and informed the evolution of the piece. When I read, "My teacher taught us to stand in front of the world while overlooking altogether the world's response to us," I realized this had been my education as well, and that is a lesson to unlearn. Also challenging is the shift from assuming our perceptions to be truths to understanding that they are constructions, and that the phenomena of childhood amnesia can make it extraordinarily difficult to comprehend that we all have learned worldviews. One of these highly problematic worldviews being the colonial mindset I was raised with, rooted in hierarchy. The same system that created the canon law of terra nullius, or empty land. The notion that land exists to be exploited. In contrast, the worldview founded in the importance of reciprocity, and that asks the question, what if people believed that the earth loved them back, continues to inspire me and creates a very different relationship responsibility with the land. My research and creation is an assemblage of discrete thoughts and images that eventually organize into a sequence and flow of interrelated ideas. To start making sense of the accumulation of images, I began printing them, selecting at least one from each of the sessions so that I could experience the singularity of each situation simultaneously with the incredible variability of conditions at the lake's edge. I then cut down the spreads into single images and began to lay them out, to physically move the images through time and space. In my previous book works, I would develop imagery in text and then build an appropriate binding structure. While evolving this new body of work, I participated in online bookbinding workshops of both drumleaf and sewn board bindings. Learning how to engineer books and discovering the distinct properties of the way each binding informs the experience of the content is part of being the architect of a book. The first maquette or book dummy of Sleepwalk highlights the physical property of the book as a series of nested sections bound into fixed sequences. Making many small maquettes is crucial. I have to make many book models to learn how to make the final book work. I've selected excerpts from each maquette to demonstrate key shifts in the evolution of the piece. In the first version, I focus on fundamentals of a book structure, the act of opening, the verso recto aspect of each page spread. I work with the conventions of book structure, but always prioritize that this is an artwork. One consideration is the interaction of paper and image. I also question the significance of the gutter, the split that occurs in the middle of spreads. In some page spreads, the gutter is overlooked in the illusion that the image continues from one side to another. We become slightly more aware of the physical reality of binding a book when the sewing intrudes into the space of the image. And then deliberate choice-making manifests when the same image is repeated, but desaturated. Sequencing within a bookwork is analogous to film and film editing. As we move through the sections, each one has a different method for the way the images will interact across the gutter. This design element is a critical creative statement. The sequential flow of images and the pause within each page spread is not an accidental artifact of content. It is the basic gesture through which understanding is built. Every previous page becomes knowledge. Every pending page is the unknown. In the first model, seasonal shifts were the basis for a logical sequential flow. The next step was to explore the nature of patterns in a less literal way. Fundamental to this project is repetition. The repeated action of visiting a place, the psychic cloister, or ritual of walking followed by arrival at a fixed place, and the recording of that specific moment. Music and musical structures inform the construction of my work. This piece owes much to Baroque music and Bach, in the use of relatively short thematic elements, developed by making small changes with each repetition. The second version explores new potential by creating variations. This model begins with the convention of the codex. I begin to play with alternative framing of the images other than the full or bleed page, which underscores the reality of selection and exclusion that occurs within any image, and also emphasizes the space and nature of the paper. I introduce accordion structures which fold and unfold, and which provide us with the opportunity to see more than one image within a spread, and challenges the accepted norm of the codex format. The unfolded accordions literally leave the containment of the book space to expand and enter our bodily space. The intangible mindscape of a book becomes a tangible landscape. Bookworks are both virtual and literal movement of image and word. The experience of bookworks is immersive. We constantly dive and surface. Our guide is the constructed sequence of pages. And in a bookwork, every page is punctuation. While content builds from the flow of page to page, what is contained within each spread is always complete in and of itself. My bookworks are predominantly visual, but text plays a crucial role, and I'm particularly interested in poetics. The use of enjambment to evolve meaning from spread to spread is used repeatedly in Sleepwalk. In Model 3, the textual component evolves. Words move through space, and it is our hand that determines the pace of reading. This is an interactive, time-based art form. In this project, the photographs contain only land, water, sky, and sometimes birds. No humans are ever represented. Though human agency is at work on all levels, it was my aspiration to take a quiet place in this space. Becoming invisible is not the equivalent of being non-existent. I do not deny my presence in this work, but rather give priority to the presence of the place. Creating work is a process of getting lost, during the attempt to find meaning. Being present and accepting absence. Making this work has taught me that I do not have to be inside my home to be focused on my interior world. But I'm trying to expand this inner world by consistently returning to the lake's edge, to see more deeply the evidence being presented, to learn about this place that is an ever-shifting reality, never the same sky, water, or ground. Migrations of all forms of beings and the shift from one space to another has significance to me. I lived close to the ocean on the west coast of Newfoundland for 26 years before relocating to the lake's edge. In making this work, I have had to question whether I'm using the world as a mirror, or can I look at the world and understand that there are infinite human and other than human ways to perceive it. In this process, I'm building a new foundation, forming short-term and parallel long-term memories. The experience of a book offers the same doubling and splitting. The fourth version is the first full-scale iteration. I researched a wide range of digital media to find the right paper, so that images are given their full beauty, while also providing the right weight, tactility, fold, and drape. The paper had to support the nuanced printings used when creating the subtle punctuation between sections, as well as the range of the saturated color images. Using more than one paper type, weight, and color reinforces the underlying content of shifts. The paper itself shifts under our fingers. The visual placement and weight of the words was honed to establish a quiet human presence. In contrast to traditional book publishing, I'm responsible for every aspect of my bookworks: content, design, printing, and hand binding. Research requires a state of receptiveness. I thought I wanted to learn about the biological forces at work in the lake, but instead learned about the political forces that have radically shifted the surprisingly fragile ecosystem of the vast bodies of fresh water. The fact that even a subtle change in air temperature can mean disruption in the sky-water balance led to the writing for one of the sections. With every piece I've ever made, there are elements that I have to let go of in order to let the piece resolve to fulfill its purpose and not my preconceptions. In the fifth version, I let go of the convention of the bookcloth covering and allowed the outside to become image, a part of the content, that would fold its way inside the piece. I focused on reworking the last few unresolved sections, in particular the middle section, that I had been determined to make into a complicated mirroring and unfolding that tried to balance too many images. In the sixth version, I simplified these sections. Right up to the end, I'm taking the book apart, putting it back together again, and focusing on details. I can take this slow and reciprocal approach to printing and binding, since I make these pieces myself, and in very small editions, rarely more than 15 copies. The world of literature and imagination continues to be one of my major inspirations. Each bookwork is part of the continuum of books and art, and I love every aspect of making books. I am a printmaker. The work begins as expansive sheets of printed paper that are hand-cut and folded into their respective sections, then sewn and bound together. As a brief aside, when reading the work, the quiet intimacy of the text is quite different from the experience of hearing it read aloud. Thus we arrive at the resolved piece, Sleepwalk. Sleep, walk, sleep, walks, leap, walk, sleep, walk, walk, sleep, sleep, walks, leaps, walk, sleep, wake. Fluctuate. Seasonal contrasts unfold into the natural pattern of seasonal flux. Two forms of time are present: the diachronic time of movement through the book and the synchronic time of each page. Sublimate. Each section begins with a word that signals a type of shift. Sublimation, the phenomenal occurrence as snow bypasses its watery self to become sky. This shocking shift of states, where water feels wedged between solid and gas, and the ever-present horizon. The artist is out of view, but present in framing and offering the work, to share the wonder of a world that is ever affected by our presence. Invert. Negative to positive. A world of photographic inversions, where the shift maker is the artist, choosing to flip black and white and color. When given the surprising gift that a lake's edge can be its own mirror image, and the eerie process of translation. When a negative turns snow into stone. Lit becomes split. The riptide that splits the piece, spilling past into future. A saturated view. The cycle of drain and rain, unbalanced by temperature shifts, so that raindrops rise and soak the sky. A reversal of expectations. Cloud, a visual veil. Over, lap, over. Lay, over. Cast, turn. Down, cast. Shadow. Shadow walk. Sleepwalk. Close one eye. Half asleep in July. The algae clogging the water and zebra mussels clogging the shore. Are we oblivious or observant of the evidence at the event horizon? Sleep, walk, swim in December's frigid, open water fall. Asleep in full summer, awake to fall. Asleep to fall, asleep to fall, awake. Thank you.